Heyo, Packer fans, what's going on? Welcome to the Packers Trilogy podcast presented by the Wisconsin Sports Trilogy, the podcast for die-hard Packer fans by die-hard Packer fans. I am your host, Trevor. You can find me on Twitter at Bender_Trevor, and you can find my writing at Dairyland Express. Make sure you check that out. As always, you can find all of our content at Trilogy_pod on Twitter, Instagram, and on Facebook. And you're here on YouTube, so you found us here. That's awesome. If you would subscribe, like the video, we would really, really appreciate that. Today, I'm going to look back at the Bears game. And there's one player in particular I want to focus on, and that's Mr. Robert Tonyan. And I still struggle. I know I'm trying to get better at saying Tonyan, not Tonyan. But I'm excited to look at this game. Now, most of it is about Large Robert. The end part of it, I'm going to highlight a couple plays that I feel like could have been just big plays and would have been really, really exciting. Before we get into the film part of this, I do want to mention, I think Tonyan can really ascend to a top 10 tight end, maybe a top 5 tight end, if he gets just a little bit more consistent. So I'm not just talking consistent in terms of production, but, PFF grades are what they are, right? Take them for what they are, and we can use them as a tool to see how players are playing, use that against the eye test, see if you agree, disagree, all those different things. But I think Tonyan kind of has huge games. He does a very good job some games, and some games you don't really see or hear a lot from him. And I think that's what PFF is telling us. That he has 4 games that have graded above 70 and really above 75. So against Minnesota, he had 76.3, New Orleans 78.5, Chicago 78.6, and then against Atlanta, which I believe was his 3-touchdown game, 83.8. And he also has some games where he really struggles, under 50, or he has 2 of those. And then if you broaden that a little bit, under 60, you add another 3 games to that. So that's 5 games under 60. So that's something, if he improves that, if it's like 65 to 70 for those games instead of under 60, I think you can really start classifying him as a top tight end in this league. All he has to do is get more consistent, in my opinion. So let's get into this tape, right, of the Bears game. Again, we're going to start with Tonyan, and then we'll transition to a few other plays that I wanted to point out that weren't Tonyan specific. So we are going to start off here. And this first play is blocking, right? He gets just enough of Khalil Mack. It's not like anything outstanding, but this is what we need him to do if we want him to be a threat all the time, right? He has to be able to do this blocking, and like I said, it's not an insanely hard block, just got enough of Mack for him to not be able to make the play, but that's important. That's something he has to be able to do because we want him on the field if he's going to be a true tight end 1. So that's something that he needs to do. This one I put on right after because that time he just had another motion where he's blocking in that situation. This time he leaks out, and that's what Matt LaFleur does, right? This is a Matt LaFleur thing, but also when you have a guy like Tonyan who can make those, that's not a perfect throw from Rodgers, and he makes a good catch and gets some yards after it, even though it wasn't a perfect throw. And that's something that Tonyan does a really good job. He does a good job of leaking out, and that's why you need him to be able to make those blocks good, because that is something he brings in here. Here, Jones motions out of the backfield. You can see Rodgers kind of changing the play a little bit. And here I like it because he's more used as just a pick player, right? And this is Lazard. I love Lazard on this play. I love that he somersaults forward there. It's just a fun play by Lazard. But I like how they kind of use him as a decoy. And here, he's kind of that screener too, but this time he's the one that gets open. And we'll go back to the other angle of this, which I like. You'll see Danny Trevathan get caught up a little bit, slow down when Tonyan slows down. And there you go. You're open, and he's kind of got that burst. Look at that. Just create the separation after he slows down when he's acting like he's picking. I really, really like this play, and it shows that kind of nuance that Tonyan is developing here just a few years into the league. This one is just, I just like his vertical quickness here. So nothing outstanding. He just runs a straight route and the ball doesn't go to him. But I just like how even on a straight route, if they had thrown it right away, I think that safety doesn't know the ball has been thrown. But he could have had a shot down the field if Rodgers doesn't get the ball rid of it that quickly. So I like that. Here's the big touchdown play. I love Tonyan's route on this. He really shows Eddie Jackson he's going and kind of running that to the sideline route, and then he cuts it back midfield, and you can see right there on that end zone cam how open he is. Here on this one, this is the Devontae play. Sorry, everyone. I watched this here. You can see how open Devontae was as soon as Devontae gets in the shot and how much he has to slow up. I talked about this on the podcast, the full-length recap podcast, and look at how wide open Devontae is. And I said I thought that could have been a touchdown when I watched it, and it definitely could have been. Again, watch this angle. I like this angle. That's a touchdown. If that's in stride, that's a touchdown. Not an easy throw, but that's a touchdown. Here we talked about this on the recap podcast as well. End around, if Lazard puts his foot in the ground and goes upfield, I think Sternberger can actually make the block. You can see Eddie Jackson gets away from it because he goes outside. He's able to step back and kind of follow that out. But to me, if he steps up, goes right upfield there, that block's going to be there. Floyd's not going to catch him. It's just going to be a huge play. So he's got to cut up the field before he gets outside there. That's my big thing. Couple plays that could have been huge. That end around to EQ or jet motion to EQ. If he puts his foot in the ground and cuts upfield, like I said, I think Sternberger is going to be able to make the block on Jackson. The only reason he doesn't in this one, because Jackson sees EQ belly out, which allows him to take a step back and get outside there. And if he tries to do that, if EQ just steps up, I don't think he's going to be able to get around Sternberger in time. And then the Davante Adams one, I just wanted to throw that out there because, Rodgers had a pretty good game, but that's just a throw he's got to make. He is throwing on the run, all those types of things, but it's just something that I was hoping, that could have been a big play. And we'd love to see those big plays. Both of those, the EQ and the Davante Adams one, could have been huge. If EQ puts his foot in the ground and cuts upfield right away, or, Rodgers puts that ball in stride to Adams, and that's an 80-yard touchdown, 75-yard touchdown, whatever it was. But the premise of this video was kind of talk about Tonyan. If he does this stuff more consistently, he just does enough in the blocking game. He uses what he does in the blocking game to leak out. That's really Matt LaFleur stuff, but you still have to sell those things. I really enjoyed Robert Tonyan in this one. He was really fun to watch, and I'm excited and want to see this be more consistent, because if it is, I think he's a top 10 tight end in this league, and he might be top 5 if he is consistent. And that's the big thing that I want to see from Tonyan moving forward. And hopefully you guys are excited about him too, because he is really, really exciting. And this offense is just so much fun to watch against a very good Bears defense. They put up 41 points. Well, I guess not 41 points because of the defensive touchdown. But I am just really excited about this football team. Tonyan in specific, EQ is starting to show a little bit more. Now you bring in Tavon Austin. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch this team down the stretch. So stay tuned here on YouTube. Make sure you're checking out our podcast. Again, at Trilogy_pod on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram are the best ways to do that. Check us out, or check my articles out at Dairyland Express. Tyler writes for the Brewers at Reviewing the Brew. At Dairyland Express, I've wrote for the Brewers, the Bucks, and the Packers are ready. So make sure you check that stuff out. A lot of good content in all of those locations, so make sure you check it out. Again, if you wouldn't mind just hitting that subscribe button, we would really appreciate it. But until next time, go Pack Go.